The cold, hard one. There's a way that the very small, scared, lonely, helpless parts compensate by being, first of all, sociopathic, entering the reptilian brain, because that helps to numb and mitigate the feelings. And then moves into the rational brain, because this gives a sense of false power, and then moves into the arrogance of deduction, that because this happens, this happens. This has to happen because this has to happen, and that's just the way it is. And in that dynamic, and I'm a little itchy after getting out of the tub recently, in that dynamic, one of the directions of thought is around warfare. Well, this person did this, so you have to do this so that this happens, and then I'm still safe. And if they do this, I'll do this, and then I'll still be safe. And that's just the way it works. There's something very cold and small and hard in that state. And yet there's also something very defensible in that state. And it comes on the other side of being alone, abandoned, betrayed in terror, and in terror of pain that feels like it's too much. In this way, it is ecological, meaning if there's a single adult, if there's a single human being that is capable of love and capable of empathy, trying to find out what is it that my eyes don't seem clear, so there seems to be a hair, and I'm trying to find where it is. If there's a single adult that can comfort that hurt, then we go into the hurt and the fear and the grief and the holding, the desperate holding, the clinging of a terrified, traumatized infant to some sense of security. When that is met with dissociation, with impatience, I have an image of my mother kind of batting me away emotionally, mentally, physically. It's too much to deal with, to reach out with such need and be met with some sense of disgust or impatience is too much to deal with. And so the response is to dissociate from that terrified infant on the inside, and then move towards something colder, more difficult, harder in the reptilian brain. And as hard, as cold, as dry, and as small as that shriveled part is, it can hold out for a long time for some rigid form. And I guess that's its medicine, is sustainability. Meaning that cold, hard, small part can hold on to something, to one fixed point, and pursue it for decades, for years, for a timeless space. It can hold on to one thing. I'm holding out for X, for this, for an apology, for a symbol. And until that point, I will not move. This is a lot of staying power. And I think that to endure all the permutations, all the many breezes and shifts in that time, to maintain a very certain identity, because that's providing an infant that is in terror and uncertainty with certainty, that one day this or that will be met. And in so doing, it may be very small and shriveled, but it can hold on. It can face the terror of overwhelming mass, of terror and fear. It can hold on. It's stubborn, it's inflexible, it's small, it's hard. There's not a lot of room for other people or anything in that. But there is a sense of staying power. And I think that staying power, that certainty that we can hold out and prevail, however small, however hurt, however hard, that we can just hold out, and one day we will get what we needed. There's something very beautiful about that, that a terrified infant, that a traumatized child could shut down and clench, because that's another part of this thing, the clenching, expecting to be hit, expecting to be hurt. The fear of asking for our needs to be met, knowing that to do so leads to some sense of rage, some sense of attack by the giants. It's not safe. And yet, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm just going to clench my muscles. I'm going to get very small. I'm going to get very fixated. And I'm not going to move until this happens. I'll brace for being hit. I'll brace for being dragged around. But I'm not going to give this up until this need is met. There's something tremendously courageous in a 2-year-old in terror and pain. Holding this fixed position. There's a part of me that gets very small. It feels very small. Small-minded, small-hearted, to move into that identity. And there's a part that just says, that's wrong. This is right. Everything lines up in that direction. I don't care how much gangs up against me. I'm going to hold here. And one day, rather than being hit, I will be met, and I will have held out and advocated for the needs of the young, for the needs of the terrified, for the needs of that inner pain. Part of me feels guilty, part of me feels uncomfortable about being so rigid and so fixed. Part of me feels grateful to that part for advocating for me. The small, hard, fixed, inflexible part that no matter what, this is going to happen or I'm not budging. As the only way to be seen, as the only way to get certain needs met, to be willing to be hit, to be willing to face death in a certain sense, to be seen, to be heard. This part has never been loved. It's hard to love itself as a 2-year-old. It's hard to love the part that's being impatiently tolerated with hostility and rage. And yet this is the part that holds out and wins in so many ways in the long run. It is a winning through intensity and stubbornness more than vision and cooperation. But when vision and cooperation, when intelligence is not available, this part holds on tightly. It's the part that's holding on and held on to challenge my sexual abuser for doing the wrong thing and charging money to do the wrong thing and not owning up and doing the right thing. It's the part that stays vigil in that pain, in that grave. That Peter Sandhill will do the right thing. That Sherilyn will tell the truth. That what's going on will be spoken, or I'm not budging. It's also a part of me that is abandoned when a lover is playing out a pattern and lying about it. This part won't let go. And many people will push me out of their life rather than deal with the truth that is revealed by the fulfillment of this agenda. Agenda that I'm not lied to. I think the fact that Michael and Sherilyn both lied, and both lied about lying, and then lied about the impact of lying about lying, and then slunk away. I think that this part is saying, I'm taking a stand for a certain transparency, and I'm not letting go. I see the beauty of that part of me, and I see how lonely it is for that part of me to be feared, to be hated, to be resented, to be targeted for attack, to be undermined, to be prodded. But he tells the truth. And I love him. I love that. I love that one who will feel tremendously tight, small, and scared, but will still tell the truth.